Hi, I'm Cheryl, and I have another fishing-oriented Father's Day card to show you today. And there's a lot of things going on in here. We have little dangly fish, and we've done a lot of shading and coloring in here. So this is what we're going to need for this card. It's a 5x7 card, so we need a piece of cardstock that's cut to 7 by 10 inches and then scored and folded at 5 inches. We need some pieces of copper foil, and this one will be a matte, and so that's important that we have this cut to 5 by 4 and 5 by 4 and darn, let me measure it just to make sure I'm telling you correctly. Yeah, 5 inches by 3 and 5/8. I thought I had it written on the back. I did not. And we have another piece here of Whisper White. This is 4 3/4, or it's going to be cut to 4 3/4 by 3 3/8, but I've cut it bigger. We're going to be doing blending. When you do blending, a lot of times along the edges here, you end up getting it a dark edge along it, and I'm going, so I can cut that off. So I'm going to be cutting that off. And then I have just some scraps here. And yes, I use my scraps. I use all my scraps, and we'll be cutting some cattails and the fisherman's basket, what do they call it, a creel, and a hat from those. So this will be stamped, colored, and cut out. And then I have another piece here that is 4.5 by 6.5. And this will be for our inside sentiment. This other little bit here, this is for the fish. We're going to use this for the fish. And I have a bunch of markers here. I have my Spectrum Noir sparkle pen in the crystal clear. Wink of Stella will work just as well. And I have both light and dark Old Olive. I have light and dark crumb cake. And then I just have a plain pumpkin pie, just the marker. We'll be using that. I got lots and lots of inks here. I have my Tuxedo Black Memento ink. I keep that stored that way so the ink stays on the surface. I have my VersaMark ink and my Embossing Buddy, which I keep it stored like this. That way I always remember to use that Embossing Buddy. Let's see, I've got repositionable tape. And let's see what have I got here in the inside. Pool Party, I have Balmy Blue, and I have Pacific Point inks. And I have Early Espresso, Pineapple Punch, Melon Mambo, and Flirty Flamingo. We're going to need some glue also. I have my Art Glitter Dries Clear glue and my Tombow glue. We'll need some embossing powder. I use copper to go with my copper foil papers. If you don't have the copper, you could always use gold. Gold would be pretty. And then gold embossing powder. And let's see, what else have I got here? I've got another big pile of stuff here. My Happy Father's Day sentiment came from the Heartfelt Creations Thank You sentiments. It's got a lot of different Happy Father's Day. It's got some Happy Mother's Day. and of course some thank you sentiments on there. I used the water stamps from Waterfront, the Waterfront stamp set by Stampin' Up. I'm going to show you an alternate way of doing this in the video. So I will need let's see, I will need a brush, a water brush marker, or not a marker, but a water brush. And let's see, what else have I got? Oh, and then Best Catch Ever stamp set. I have a rectangle stitched framelit dies. That's a Stampin' Up product too. And to texture my fish, I'm using the Subtle Dynamic Textured Impressions embossing folder, and it's called, what is it called? Oh, Subtle. So that's it. So where shall we start? Oh, and you're going to need either some nice sponge daubers, or these brushes. I found my brushes on Amazon for a very reasonable price. So let's start with the blending. So I'll bring my piece of paper, white Whisper White out here. I'm also going to need a bit of scrap paper, because I'm going to mask off part of this. And so I'm going to use my repositionable tape. This is by Darice. I'm just going to put that on my paper so that it helps to hold it in place. I don't have to hold it with my hands. And about a third of the way up, we're going to put that piece of paper. I'm going to start with the sky. And since we all know fishermen have to go out at the crack of dawn to get the best fish, we're going to make it look like a dawn. So I'll start with my pineapple punch. And I just like to rub it on my silicone mat here a little bit to get it smoothed out. And then right in the center here, we're going to start adding this yellow, this pineapple punch. If you use a different type of inks, different brand of inks, it's yellow. Whatever yellow you have. Okay, so we got a nice yellow sun starting to peek up over the horizon there. So I'll close that up, and I'm going to move on to my Flirty Flamingo. And I'm just gonna rub out my brush a little bit. That's usually enough to get fairly clean. And I'm just gonna halo that a little bit with the Flirty Flamingo where our yellow was. I'm just gonna go around that. The transition into the next color, which is the Melon Mambo. So that's good for that. I'll rub my brush out on some scrap paper again and go right into the Melon Mambo. When I start with the blue, I'm switching. I'm going to switch brushes. Okay, so again, we're just going to halo that Flirty Flamingo. Bring that out on the horizon here a bit. Okay, and now we'll switch to the blues. So let's see. Here's my Balmy blue. I used that for my sky. And I'm going to switch to my bigger brush here too. I need to find a clean spot on my mat here, and I just start adding the blue into the sky. Gonna blend that in just a little bit around into the Melon Mambo. And it's funny, every time you do something like this, it always turns out just a little bit different. So every card will be a unique work of art. Okay. There we go. So now we've got our sky completed. Oh, sounds like somebody's at the door. I'll be right back. It was my neighbor at the door. My husband and I have known her and her husband since we moved in here in 1981. One of the few families that are still long-time families that have been here this long. It's a long time for South Florida. Okay, so now I'm going to move my paper, and we're going to work on the water. So there we go. I'll get that all lined up there. We'll have a nice horizon line there. And I'm going to use Pacific Point and Pool Party for the water. So I'm switching to a new brush because I'm going to be using the blue colors. I'll clean the brushes out real well later on, but for the most part you can just kind of wipe them off. So Pool Party's, or the Pacific Point's pretty bright blue color, so I'm going to work this over on the side here a little bit, just on my mat. Let's move that up. Keep this in frame. And we're just going to start adding blue here. And I'm going to just go kind of back and forth and around in circles, because our water won't be one solid color. It'll have some, oh, it looks like I have a little bit of my sticky stuff from my tape still on here. Let me get that off. These are wonderful little things for removing adhesive from your cardstock. It's an adhesive eraser. It works on Tombow glue too once it's dried. So let's get some of that Pacific Point in there. And then I'll switch to the Pool Party, so there's a little color variation in our water. And just streak that back and forth here. That gives a little bit of a look of ripples on the water. And I was going to tell you what you could use instead of using those stamps. Let me get the stamps that I used down here. There, I don't know if you can see them. It's just watermarks like this. I'll show you one of them. We ink that up with the Pool Party, and we'll just put one in. There's one of the water. There's one of the watermarks using the stamp. But I'm going to use an aqua painter. I'll get Get some ink on the lid here. So if you don't have that stamp, this is all you have to do. I'm going to put a little streak of it here. It's right about there is where our little fisherman's going to be. I want him kind of in a shadow in the water. And I'll add a little bit more, some more lines in here. Not too much, just a little bit. Okay, we'll peel this off. This wasn't the best paper in the world to use. Now I have to get those little bits off. There we go. And I thought, you know, that's real pretty and all, but I think we need a little bit of land there, just to separate the two. So I'm going to use the dark crumb cake and the painterly tip, and I'm just gonna draw just a little bit in. Not mountains or anything, just a little shoreline over here. Just like that. And now we can stamp it with our fisherman image. And I'm going to use my stamp apparatus. So I'll bring that in. My little fisherman right here, and see he's got like this little shadow in the water there, and that's lined up nice where I want it. I'll just pick that up with the lid and ink that with the Tuxedo black. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. Give it a little time to transfer. I think I'll have to redo that a couple times. So we want a nice dark impression where on the fisherman. And I think that's good. 2 times was enough. Take that off and give my lid a little wipe here, and we can do our Happy Father's Day stamp. So since this is a rubber stamp, I'll be taking this mat out, and I keep a little piece of the white craft foam in here. It helps me get a better impression. Okay, so there, I've got that there, and I'm going to pick that up with the lid, and then I'm just going to check this. I seem to have misplaced my glasses while I was chatting with my friend and neighbor, but that looks like it's pretty well lined up to me. Hopefully it is. And I'll use my Embossing Buddy, get that powdered real well. And we'll stamp that with the VersaMark ink. Go. And I don't know, I can't see how well that is, so I'm going to do it one more time just to make sure. Okay. Get in there, little piece of foam. And take a piece of scrap paper and our copper embossing powder. And just sprinkle that on there. There, that looks pretty good. I don't see anything I need to take away on that. Sometimes you get a couple little flecks of embossing powder you need to brush off. You can just brush that off with a soft brush. There we go. All my extras back in my little container. And I'm not going to make you listen to me emboss this. I'm going to go and I'm going to use my embossing tool and heat emboss this. So I'll be back again. So now that's done. I have a nice copper shiny heat embossed Happy Father's Day for the front. And now it's time to cut out, and let's see, which of these dies did I use? I'm thinking it's this one. Let me just checking it against my piece of copper foil here. Yep, that's it. And this is the second to the largest from the stitched rectangles dies. And I'll just, when I cut it down, I'll just center it just like this. So I'll need that. And then I need my other little scrap of copper foil. And that one I'll use for the fish. And I'm going to cut 2 of each of these. Okay? One I will cut from the shiny side. Then I will flip this over and cut 1 of each again from the not shiny side, as we're going to sandwich those together so that no matter which side is showing, it will look wonderful. And let's see, and my little scraps of my Whisper White here. Then I can cut out my cattails from that one, my little hat from this one, and my little fisherman's, I guess it's a creel they call it. I'll cut that from that one. And I need my embossing folder also. And once my fish are cut out, then I will just put them in my embossing folder and emboss it. This makes a really lovely subtle texture. I don't know if you can pick that up, but I'll be using that for my fish after they're cut out. So I'll go and see Mr. Big Shot. And you know, while I'm here, let's do the inside of the card also. Let's stamp the inside of the card. So I need my I'll be using my, I'm going to use my Stamparatus for that too. And I have a magnet on the back. This is the only downside with this Stamparatus, is that these magnets stick onto the dies. So let me move these dies aside. And we'll do all of our stamping also. So I'm going to use, where did I put it? Here we go. For the inside of the card, I'm going to use the sentiment, "Best, you're the best catch ever." And I need my black foam piece back in again for that. Slide that in there. And right about there looks good to me as far as being centered on the piece for the interior of the card. But you know, I'm going to shift it just a little bit towards this bottom right hand corner, because I'm going to put this fly, that fishing fly, on there too. I can put both of them on there. them up, and where did my black ink go? There we go. I'll ink that up with my Tuxedo black ink. And stamp it. And looks like it could use another stamping. That's what's so wonderful about using the stamp positioner, is that if you don't get a good impression the first time, you get a second and even a third and fourth chance to get it right. Okay, and maybe just a little more on the top part of the sentiment. Now, on my original card, I didn't color in the fishing fly. If you'd like to do that, then sure. Why not? Go ahead and color in your fishing fly with whatever markers you might like to use. But I just left mine like this. Okay. And then I'll work right on this mat because that makes a nice stamping platform. And I'm going to stamp the hat and the fishing creel with Early Espresso. If I can get it open. My goodness, this one's hard to open. There we go. So I'll ink up the fishing creel. And I'm just going to be brave and use a block. Okay, so there's that. That'll get cut out then. And I have my little piece here for the hat. And I will stamp that also. And we might as well color them in too. Well, since I know where my markers are. So on the hat, there's a little band on the hat right here. And I'm just going to color that little band in. I'm going to use the smaller bullet end because there's not a lot to color. And I'll just hold this up so that you can see what I'm doing here. Okay, so just coloring in the band. And then I'm going to go with my light old olive, and right in the center here I'm going to go over that with the light old olive. I should have done this the opposite way. I should have done the light olive first and then the dark olive, but I'm going to just work at that a little bit, and that will push the dark color to the back. See here on the paper? See what it's doing? It's pushing that dark color to the back. So I have dark on the edges and lighter in the center. It'll give a little dimension to our hat. And then with my light crumb cake, I'm going to color in. Just color in the whole rest of the hat with that. And always recap your markers. That will help you keep them nice for a long time. And then I'm just going to add some shadow. So I just put a little bit up here on the top of the hat. And then I'm just going to add a little bit here on the sides. Like that. This is harder to do than you would think. To hold this up in the air and do this. If it wasn't for the fact I had such a hard time getting my camera back in a good position, I'd just lower my camera. And then now where the two meet, where the dark and the light meet, I'm just going to go over that a bit with my light color crumb cake, the light crumb cake. And see, now we have a little dimension on our hat. And I'll do the same thing here with the creel. So, well, since I have the light crumb cake in my hand, I'll just go over all the parts that look bumpy. I'm assuming that's supposed to be like a basket look. And then, and then with the dark crumb cake, we'll just go around along the edge here and on this side. And yeah, and turn your paper. If it's more comfortable for you to do something with your paper a different way, absolutely turn your paper. And then up along this top edge here, I'll do a little bit of the dark crumb cake, and that'll give it a little bit of a rounded look, and then down along the bottom also. And now because it's bumpy like that, I don't think I need to even go back with my light crumb cake. So then the rest of this here is going to be colored in with the old olives, starting with the light one. I really want the other end though. I opened the bullet end by mistake. I want the paint tip. And I'll just go all along there like so. Oh, I should probably have colored that strap in with the crumb cake also. So we'll just go back and do that after the fact. Okay, and all along that edge thing right there. I'll switch to the old olive, dark. And just right here, it kind of gives you a hint that there's a shadow there already. And then I'll just do around the edge here just a little bit. And just on the edges up here. A little bit more on that one. And then back to the light. And yes, when you're using alcohol markers and you're doing shading and blending, you're going to do this a lot. You go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. Lots and lots. If you're new to it, there are tons of videos out on YouTube on how to use alcohol markers. And then let's see, is this my dark one or my light one? That's my dark. Oh, there's my light one right here. I forgot to do this little strap here, so I'm just gonna use that there. Oops. Now I'll leave these out because I'm going to need them to do my cattails. But there's no stamp for the cattails. There's just a die to cut them. So we're going to have to really wing it with the cattails. I'm going to go to Mr. Big Shot. I'm going to get everything all cut out. And then I'll be back and we'll do the cattails. And I think maybe we'll be ready to put the card together. So I have all my pieces cut out now. I have all my little fish here. And we're going to start with the fish. Because I have, right here, I have some very clear, it's actually for jewelry making, but it resembles fishing line. And I'm going to cut this piece in half. And we're going to glue our fish together. That's why I'm starting with those first, because they'll take a little bit of time to dry. So let me get my two big ones. And these are embossed. You see that nice texture on them? I'm going to straighten them out a little bit. And oh, this one's little eye didn't get popped out. Let me pop that out. Maybe. There it goes. There we go. Let me put some glue on this fish. And I'm using the Art Glitter Designer Dries Clear adhesive for this, because that dries up, it sets up a little faster than the Tombow does. And we're just going to line them up like that. Make sure everything lines up, and we have the bit of line coming out here at the fish's head, right about where his mouth would be. I'm going to take a block, and I'm going to sit the block on top of it and just have him sitting there. And we'll do the same with the little fish. Oh, this one has an eye that didn't come out too. There we go. Oh, this one too. Oh no, there we go. That one just fell out. We'll flatten them out a bit. And put glue on there. Oop. I think this one's still alive. He's jumping around. And we'll do the same thing on this one. We'll line it all up and get that piece of what will look like fishing line sandwich in there. And we're not done with these fish yet. We have another little thing to do to them. I'll just slide him underneath my block. Get under there, fish. And we'll go on and we'll color in our cattails. So let me get my markers. I'll be using the light and dark Old Olive for these, and the light and dark crumb cake. So I'll start, and I'll just do the top of the cattail first. Just put a little bit of the light crumb cake on there. And then I use the painter leaf tip for that one. And this one I'm going to use the bullet tip. I just put dots up one side of the cattail. So when we have it on our card, it's going to be right about here. And so it's going to look like the sun is shining this way. So we have it lighter on this side, darker on this side. There. And then we'll start with the light Old Olive on all of our stems here. Stems and leaves. And just going in the direction the leaves are growing. So if there's any streaks there, it will just look like it's natural. And then I'll use my dark Old Olive, and everywhere I can see where leaves are growing, I'm just going to give it a little stripe of Old Olive, the dark, on the underside and this right hand side of the leaves. So again, that's where the sun will be leaving shadows on these leaves. Underside. Just like that. And I know it looks like a bit of a hot mess right now. Now we're going to go back over it again with the light Old Olive to get things blending in a little bit so it's not quite so stripy. And now that our little cattails here have dried, I'm going to go back again with the bullet tip with the dark crumb cake. And I'm going to add just a little bit more right along the edge. Just along the edge there. Now make it even a little bit more dark. And now, once I wipe my table a little bit here, we can start putting the card together. Let me move my fish over some. Get them out of the way. There. Now, I forgot to put sparkle on my water, so I'm going to do that right now. And I'm just going to, with the Spectrum Noir sparkle pen, I'm just going to put some streaks of sparkle on here. It's just a very subtle little glitter thing on there. And when you're done, be sure to wipe your pen, because it will pick up just a little bit of that blue from the water that we colored in. And so that's ready to go on the card. I can glue this to our piece of copper. And now if you want to conserve on paper, you could cut your fish out right here from the center of this piece, but, well, quite frankly, I didn't think of it. So I'm going to use my Tombow glue. That will give me a little bit of time to line everything up. Get that centered nicely. I'm going to do the inside of the card next, before we start adding things to the front. And again, I'm using the Tombow. And just add that to the inside and give it, it's got about 1/2 inch border all around. Go back to the front. Tombow again. And I'll put this on the card front. And it's going to be off to the side. It's not centered on the card. I'm leaving about 1/2 inch border here and 1/2 inch along the bottom edge here. And then the cattails can go on. Put some glue on there wherever we can find a little spot. And if you're worried about your Tombow glue oozing out, you can always let it just sit for a little while and dry. Then it becomes like a sticker and it won't ooze out. And this is going to go right, going to touch the bottom of the card here and just almost touching the side. That's glued in place, and then the hat will sit on top of our cattails. I hope our fisherman remembers his hat and doesn't leave it sitting there when he's all done fishing for the day. And we're ready for our fish again. The basket will go up here. So they're pretty well dry, but what I didn't like is to see this white edge here. I can see a white edge on the paper, so I'm going to use the the orange marker. This is a pumpkin pie color. It's just a Stampin' Right marker. If you want to use an alcohol marker, that's fine too. If you don't want to do this at all, that's okay too. But I'm just covering up, I'm coloring in the edge here, so we don't have that, just that bright white edge of the paper showing. I know, it's kind of fiddly, isn't it, of me to do that, but things like that bother me. And do the same on the little fish. Okay. Then our fish are going to hang. They're going to hang kind of offset like this. So I'll bring my two pieces of fishing line up and kind of decide where they're going to end. And they'll go right about there underneath this fishing basket. Well, the fishing creel. I'll put my Tombow glue on the back of this. Make sure I have a good amount of it in the center there where those two lines are going to be. And let's see, I put that at a nice little angle, a jaunty little angle. Hold that in place for a few seconds. And that's it. There we go. Our card's finished. So if you've liked this video, be sure to hit that like button down below. If you want to see more of my videos, then hit the subscribe button. And if you click on the little bell that shows up after you hit subscribe, it will actually notify you when I post new videos. Isn't that wonderful? If there are any Stampin' Up! Products that you'd like to purchase, that'd be wonderful if you use me as your demonstrator if you're in the US. And you can do that either through my Facebook page or my blog, and the URLs for those are down below. And as always, I'll post all of the supplies and tools that I used. That'll all be on a list down below too. Recently somebody left a message, a comment, and I guess they figured it out because the comment has disappeared, but they didn't know where my list was. And down in the little description part of the video, there's a show more. You can see show more. If you click on that, it will show more, and that's where I hide my list of materials and tools that I used. So that's about it for today, and y'all take care, stay safe, and happy stampin'.